ripples have been investigated first in experimental models by Anatol Bragin, who was a real great researcher at UCLA. And he found that ripples are early markers of epileptogenesis in epilepsy models where you inject, for example, a toxin and then induce epilepsy. And he saw that if you really see this development of these high-frequency oscillations, that then the probability to have epileptic seizures later on is very high. And this has then been used by a number of groups to distinguish or to try to distinguish areas of the brain which are epileptogenic from those who are not. And there has been quite a number of investigations looking at, for example, aspects of the frequency range in which these oscillations occur, and looking at some other aspects, for example, the relation to the background EEG, how well it distinguishes from that, and also the influence depending on certain tasks. And so it has turned out that it is not as easy as thought in the very beginning to find these differentiation of physiological ripples, but that we certainly can identify now some parameters which are able to show that some of these ripples are associated with epilepsy and others are not. And one way to approach this is to compare those which are associated with epileptic spikes. Another way is to look at how, for example, physiological activities influence these ripples. And the third is to compare this ripple or experience during interictal and ictal phases. So there are a number of approaches which now tend to give us some impression and allow with some advanced methodologies to classify parts of these ripples at least. But it will certainly remain a task for the future to have a complete separation. At this time, we can give some hints for ripples which are more physiological, for example, involved in navigation or in memory processes, and others which are more involved in epileptic activity. And so we have to learn more on this, but certainly there is approaches now which are learned with machine learning techniques to separate them and to have a better impression and a better prediction which area is really the epileptogenic area and which is really functionally involved and is expressing ripples for that reason.